Today we're further discussing the situation with the Arizona Coyotes. We know they lost a bid for the new arena deal in Tempe. Will this mean relocation? Where could they go? Could they stay in Arizona? Is there any hope? What could the plans be? We'll discuss all the scenarios coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, of course, we had some big news late last night into the morning here regarding the Arizona Coyotes and their proposed arena and entertainment district in Tempe. Of course, we know that there was going to a vote in a referendum style to the local residents, and unfortunately the vote turned out to not go their way. It was 56% no. They cannot proceed with that arena deal in Tempe. So does that mean that the Coyotes are done in the state of Arizona? Does that mean that they have to relocate? Well, let's discuss what we know, what we could see, what the scenarios could be, and how this could all end up playing out. We certainly know a lot more and have heard a lot more than we did, of course, all those several hours ago when the news first broke in the wee hours of the morning. So, of course, like I said, we know the vote went sour. We know they didn't get their way on that front. A lot of people seem to think that the main way to possibly try to save things, if the Coyotes have any hope and figure out a way to stay in Arizona, would be to maybe partner with the Phoenix Suns basketball team. They've recently had an ownership change. Could they talk to the new owner and figure out a way to share an arena? Now, that current arena that the Suns play in, it's not a hockey arena. It would need to be, renovated and obviously made a lot of adjustments there, which would be costly. Is he interested in that? I don't know. That's certainly one of the first people they probably want to speak to, though, and I'm sure at this point that Gary Bettman and the Coyotes executives, at least I would hope, because I know that they would not be dumb enough to not have plans B and C in their back pocket, that they'd have to have contingency plans, right? They had to know, as much as they had confidence that a vote would go their way, that there's always a chance it wouldn't. Gary Bettman's not gonna roll that way. So, certainly I'm sure that they already had some other prior discussions about contingencies just in case. And I'm sure that was one of the options that they're looking at. Now, of course, one of the big things that the NHL has wanted for a long time, especially since the very first lockout under the Bettman era all those years ago, was they really wanted NHL owners to own their buildings. They don't want to be in a situation where they don't own the building and they're at the mercy of another party kind of determining their fate. They could obviously, they could be a lease tenant, but obviously leases can be terminated, things can change, and some things could be out of your control. So it's much better if you own your building and kind of control your own fate, your own destiny, and obviously better from a investment and just overall business model as well. So clearly, if they partner with the Phoenix Suns and the current ownership team stays in place, they'd be a tenant in another building. That's not really an ideal scenario. Obviously, right now, the Coyotes have a lease in place to continue playing in ASU for a few more years, should they be able to, make that, an option. Obviously, if, it's there, they can do it. But will the NHL allow them to do it is the question. Now, we did get a statement earlier from ESPN. Greg Wyshynski had an article out. He had talked to Bill Daly, and Bill Daly says, as of right now, the plan is for the Arizona Coyotes to play at Mullet Arena at ASU for the 23-24 upcoming NHL season. So it doesn't mean that they're not going to relocate. It just means that at this point, they're going to take their time with things, and as of today, at least, the plan is for them to play there next year. Now, keep in mind, I've seen a lot of people say, well, geez, could they really get them relocated to another city in time for next season? Is that really possible? Or would the Coyotes at least stay for one more year and, maybe move the year after, have kind of like a farewell tour, so to speak? And the answer is they certainly could move, and they could do it quickly. If you think about when the Atlanta Thrashers moved to Winnipeg, which was the last time we've seen an NHL team relocate, that announcement came on May 31st. It was on the eve of the Stanley Cup final getting underway, and they were in place and ready to be the Winnipeg Jets 2.0 for the fall when the season started. So it is very much possible. Of course, depending on where they go, it really helps and would be optimal for that location to have an arena that's ready to roll. Obviously, if they don't have an arena that can be suitable for the NHL team, that's not going to work. Now, there's several cities in the mix here where they could go. We'll talk about that here in just a second. But essentially, I think a lot of the things that seem to have gone wrong here is I think the locals kind of, to me, kind of shows that they don't have a lot of faith in the ownership group. Certainly, we had heard that there was a major opposition to the development here, and a lot of that was from local labor unions who were not guaranteed to get the jobs to build and work on this development project. And they put a lot of money, and it got started a lot sooner campaigning against this than the Coyotes ever did getting the campaign going to support it. The opposition started campaigning about almost 2 months before the Yes campaign started. So before they ever get out knocking on doors trying to gain support, they were already behind the 8 ball. And now, of course, a lot of this wasn't necessarily known on a more national level. The locals probably heard more about this stuff than the rest of us did living in other parts of North America. But at the end of the day, that seems to be a big issue. They also spent about 10 times the money on the campaign with over $2 million, where it's been reported that the Coyotes spent around $250,000. And they said they were slow getting started and didn't put the effort into the Yes campaign that the opposition did. Now, I've seen the Yes campaign, people who are in support of it, say that the people campaigning against it spread a bunch of misinformation. I don't know about that. I'm not going to speak to it because I really don't know what they've put out there that they claim to be false information. I do know there was a lot of people that were skeptical over the fact that it was going to be no cost to the taxpayers and that it was going to be 100% privately financed. That's not really completely 100% true. The local government was going to have to put in a bunch of money to work on the infrastructure, like the roads and all the things, the development that kind of goes with having a major project like that take place. That was going to be somewhere around $200 and some million. And if you look at the local tax impact as well, I think they estimated that the local cost to local taxpayers in the long term was going to be about $700 million. And that's substantial. Now, of course, the other thing too is if you look at the demographics for the people that are voting, it seems to be very much a largely a retirement age group. Obviously, sports and entertainment and things like that don't seem to be real high on their priority list where they want to see their tax dollars going or where they want to see their land in the area developed. So it certainly created a situation where they didn't do well in the polls. Now, of course, we also knew that the polls looked favorable. A lot of people expected this to pass, but as we've learned, polls can be very, very unreliable, especially when it comes to a local government elections of any sort. So certainly, that's what we know about that. Now, Craig Morgan, who works for Phoenix Sports, has been on top of this as the main beat writer for the Coyotes hockey club. He's basically said with all the other scenarios where they could go and what they've explored, there's issues with everything. It doesn't really see a long-term viable solution. All that's kind of been explored, and it's been kind of gotten to the point where this is kind of like your last resort. And it did not work out. So obviously that is certainly an issue. Now, Craig Morgan has also gone on to say, since the news came out a little bit earlier today, where the Coyotes are expected to play one more season in Mullet Arena, that he's being told that there might still be a path forward from the state in Arizona, but he has not quite said exactly what that could entail or what that could be. I personally have my doubts just because we've been down this road so many times and seen so many different theories out there how this could work, and yet time and time again it hasn't worked out and there's still issues. So until I see a solution that's seems to be ironclad, it's going to be tough to buy into that theory, but time will tell. They don't have to move this team immediately. They do have, like I said, the Mullet Arena, the ASU location they can play at for another season or two while they try to sort things out. And that's, at the end of the day, I'm sure what Coyotes fans want to hear. I'm sure they don't want to lose their team, and I certainly have plenty of sympathy for them. I can't imagine. I don't live in an NHL city myself. I love NHL hockey. I'm a huge fan. Obviously, this is what I do for a living. But, and I'd often travel to NHL cities to see games. But, if I had a team in my backyard and it was going to be taken from me, I'd be absolutely devastated. So I can only imagine what the local fans that are the hardcore people that support it and love it. I certainly can just imagine what you're going through. And it's been a rocky road for 30 years. And I'm sure you're used to the things that you've dealt with. And, at the end of the day, you want to do what you can to save your franchise. No doubt about that. I mean, at this point, though, Kevin Weeks of ESPN has put out a couple of different cryptic tweets, because that's how Kevin Weeks tends to roll, about all he's posted is a picture of the city, kind of leading us to think that that's where the Coyotes might be heading. And the two cities that come up the most is Houston, Texas, and Salt Lake City. Now, Salt Lake City has kind of emerged just more recently as a potential NHL home. Now, some potential NHL ownership groups might prefer to go down the expansion route, seeing that the recent success of Seattle and Vegas they may not want a relocation team. Now, I know people in Quebec City are probably going to be bummed out, thinking that, we have the arena, we have the support, and they absolutely do. I know the NHL is going to probably do everything it can to first keep this team in Arizona, and if all else fails and they have to move, they keep it in the western part of North America in the U.S., because there's plenty of markets there that are much bigger, and they want to keep their East-West conference balance that they've been able to achieve, which took a long time to get there. They're not going to want to punish Detroit or Columbus to move them in the Western Conference. That those teams may not agree to that or be very grumpy if they had to. So at the end of the day, as much as I'd love to see Quebec City get a team, and I can't say that for 100% sure it won't happen. I just think it's incredibly unlikely given these circumstances. But I would love to see a team go there for sure. I'd love to see the old rivalry reignited with the Montreal Canadiens, and I think it'd do really well. They sell out major junior hockey there. They have an 18,000 seat arena. The Quebec Ramparts, their team in Quebec City, are in the league championship final in the major junior hockey right now, and they're selling out. That city loves hockey. There's no doubt. And if it was NHL, it'd be the same thing. So someday, let's hope. I'm not sure this is going to work out for them in this particular scenario, but Salt Lake City seems to be the favorite. From what I'm hearing amongst NHL reporters, that it might be the most likely spot. Also, Kansas City, Sacramento, or other cities that are mentioned as potential, destinations here should the Coyotes be forced to move. But at this point, a lot of people think that the odds of the Coyotes relocating are extremely high, that the odds of them being able to survive in the state of Arizona after everything that just went down here last night is not good at all. There's also going to be pressure from, according to Elliotte Friedman, from the NHLPA and their new boss there, the new director. They certainly are not, keen on playing in this arena that's obviously small and doesn't really technically meet NHL standards, and certainly there's a lot of concern that way. There was also a tweet which seems to be deleted now, so I hope this was a legit tweet. I will show it to you just to see. It looks like it's from Clayton Keller's dad. I went to the profile of the account, and it is certainly verified that it is Clayton Keller's father. And he posted a tweet, and I'll show you a snapshot here just to show you what it says. That Clayton Keller won't be there next season. The team needs to be moved, and Phoenix is going to regret losing a pro sports team. And now, I can understand if he did post that in the heat of the moment, that maybe he was either, decided to delete it to take the attention off or what have you. But at the end of the day, makes you wonder. Now, can players just say, I want out of here? It's not going to be that simple. They can't all just not play or demand trades. I mean, I guess they can try, but it's just not that simple. But, not to say that a player can't try to work their way out of there if they really become unhappy with the situation. I know Andy Strickland was saying that he had posted that Salt Lake appeared to be a potential front runner for a relocation spot as well. So we've had multiple NHL connected reporters suggesting Salt Lake City, a little bit are suggesting Houston, and we'll see. Now, Salt Lake City, the arena there wouldn't be the greatest. I believe it seats around 14,000 to 15,000 people. There is some views, though, that are not overly great. It's not the perfect, ideal NHL arena, but it could serve as a temporary spot. There is a lot of speculation that the Salt Lake City area would be getting, possibly building a new arena in the next couple of years. So if that moves forward, I believe they're trying to host another Olympics there as well, and that could be part of that bid that it gets the job done to get the arena built. And if that happens, then obviously they could possibly play in that arena short term for a couple seasons with the expectation that a new arena is going to be built, and that the new arena would be obviously brand new up to, the latest, greatest NHL arena based on all the other top buildings around the league. So certainly a viable spot. So are the Coyotes relocating? I honestly think they are. Unfortunately, I guess for cities that are hoping to get an NHL franchise for next season, I'm going to say hold your horses here. It's not so fast. We know Bettman and the NHL are going to do everything they can to keep the team in Arizona. I know the fans certainly want to see it stay. We'll see. They claim to have a potential path forward. I don't know. I mean, at the end of the day, the ownership there of Alex Muriel, also one of the tidbit. It seems like from what Craig Morgan was reporting that It doesn't seem like the belief is that there is not interest on his part to own a team outside of Arizona. So if they get to the point that they're like, okay, this is not going to work, it has to move, then expect him to sell the team and a new ownership group take over and relocate them to wherever they end up going. It's also possible that the team could be sold and stay in Arizona. Like I said, where the preference is for the NHL team to own their building. If they worked out something, could the guy that owns the Suns buy them? I don't think it's likely, considering he just completed a major purchase like that, to buy another sports franchise right after. He'd have to have some big partners with deep pockets, but if that's not an option, I really don't know what the solution is. I'll be very curious to find out more on this potential path forward. Obviously, the thing is, too, is these path forwards take a lot of time. Look how long it's been in the works for this Tempe project. It's been quite a long time, right? So, I mean, is the NHL going to be that patient to go through another, 12 months, let's say, even before we even know if they can build, and then another 3 years beyond that before it's ready? Like, the patience, that's why most people feel like the NHL's patience is going to run out here very quickly. We likely see them play a farewell season at Mullet Arena and relocate for the 24-25 season. Most likely, by looking right now, and this is obviously far from confirmed, but Salt Lake City, possibly Houston, or somewhere in the West, to another big market that's eager to get NHL hockey. We know the owner of the Utah Jazz basketball team has been posting on Twitter that there's heavy interest to bring a team there. We know that. He apparently hadn't had meetings before with Bettman, and I honestly think, based on the fact that they even have that arena, I think that's why a lot of people are kind of leaning towards it. There's ownership interest. There's an arena that could at least work on a temporary basis, and that's where they could end up. So some interesting times ahead for the Coyotes. Let me know your thoughts. Where they end up? Is there a path forward? How is this all going to sort out? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with the latest news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.